My name is Adrian. I'm a software engineer at Databricks. And today I was supposed to give this talk together with my colleague Lianne and talk about fine-grained access control for unstructured data. Unfortunately, Lianne is not feeling well, so she's not going to be able to make it. And I have not prepared for presenting the slides. We were supposed to do a part with slides and then a demo part. I was mainly here for the demo, but I'm going to have to improvise a bit. So let me just get straight into it. UC volumes are the Databricks solution for managing and governing unstructured data. And the main challenge we have today is that when it comes to governance, the permissions that you can define on volumes are relatively coarse-grained. You can just decide who gets access to the volume in its entirety. And that works very well for the typical cases, but in more advanced use cases, people run into challenges with regards to their data setup and the lack of flexibility that the current model offers. So right now we want to announce an upcoming preview for a feature called fine-grained access controls, where we're going to try to make the situation better. So hopefully my demo is going to be self-explanatory, and yeah, happy to take questions at the end. Now, for this demo, let us pretend for a minute that Lianne and I are not Databricks employees, but rather Databricks users as part of a large pharma company that's trying to develop and put out a new treatment for breast cancer. Say we're running there a so-called drug development program, or DDP for short. And as part of that, there's a bunch of work streams going on, or so-called studies, which may be of different types: preclinical, clinical, translational, etc. Now, let's assume Lianne is the data administrator, and she has organized things such that we have one UC volume defined for each of these studies, and with the purpose of managing there all of the unstructured data related to this study, all in one place. And in this example of ours, this unstructured data would be typically clinical trial data for breast cancer patients. And more specifically, it will be breast MRI scans stored in this specialized file format called DICOM, which is the industry standard for managing medical images. Now, for ease of use on Databricks, we also extract out just regular PNG files out of these DICOM files, and we store them in the same volume alongside the DICOMs. Now, one more note I should make before moving on is that clinical study typically progresses through a sequence of 4 phases. And that's why you see this structure here with a phase 1, 2, 3 under study X. That is because our study has reached phase 3, which happens to be the most involved and costly phase, where large-scale human trials are run and extensive analyses are performed in order to demonstrate the drug's clinical benefit. This is the last step before pursuing regulatory approval from bodies like the FDA or EMA. Now, finally, this is where I come in as one of the pharmacologists or researchers in the group who is assigned to work on one of these phase 3 trials, namely this one here labeled trial 3B. And my job concretely is to process these DICOM files and extract those regular images out of them. Now, starting out, I actually don't even have access to this volume. So if I try to list it like this, I'm going to get this permission denied error. What can I do? I'm going to ask Lianne to grant me access to it. So for that, she would be typing this following grant statement: grant read volume on volume study X to adrian@databricks.com. So in case you've ever used Databricks before, this is probably familiar to you. That's because it's just the typical way of granting privileges to UC entities. However, as is, Lianne is not going to run it because this would open up the entire volume for me, and that may go against regulatory requirements, and in general, it will violate the principle of least privilege. Instead, what Lianne wants to do is to restrict my access to this particular trial directory, and maybe also the trials under phase 2, because I may need to pick at those in order to do my work properly. So fortunately for that, all she needs to do now with this upcoming feature is to add this with paths clause, with paths, and then list here the exact paths that she wants to grant me access to. So phase 2 and phase 3 trial 3B. So there we go, easy as that. No more need for workarounds such as copying this data out to separate volumes in order to manage permissions there. That would have been the old way of doing it. So now let me try listing again. And indeed, this time I'm getting access to these directories that I need to be working on. And for example, if I go into phase 3, I'm going to see my trial 3B here. However, notice how other directories in the volume that I did not get access to are not showing up in my listing. So in particular, this trial 3A here is not showing up. And even if I try to list into it explicitly like so, that's still going to fail with a permission denied error. And similarly, if I try to access the raw data in there and so on, it's all going to fail. And that just confirms that the access granted to me was fine-grained, was granular. OK, so now let me get back to the work I need to do, which is to process those DICOM files in my trial. For that, I can just simply invoke this library function that is available because I've set things up beforehand. And all I need to do is to specify a trial directory. And I'm just going to copy paste this one. And an output directory, which is going to be exactly this one that was suggested, which is a subdirectory inside the same trial. Now, if I try to run that, it is going to fail, and that's expected because, indeed, I am lacking write volume permission. All that Lianne granted me was read, as you can see here. So now, again, I'm going to ask her to help me out, and what she can do is to run a similar grant statement, but then update the read here to write, and then yeah, she can specify the path that I should get access to. And here, she can be very specific. She can grant me permission to only this images directory. And this way, she'll have some peace of mind that in case I make a mistake, I will not be able to, for example, delete those DICOM files. OK, so let's say she runs that and grants me access. And now, if I try to run this again, hopefully, it's going to work. And yeah, it looks like it will. It just may take a moment. So in the meantime, let me prepare showing you how one of these images looks like. OK, there we go. So the processing is complete. The files were generated. If I refresh here in the UI, I should see them there as well, over here. And now if I am to copy paste this first one and display it, you're going to see how a typical breast MRI looks like. All right, I'm almost done, but just one more thing to show before I wrap up, which is how Lianne would go about revoking my write access as soon as I'm done with the processing. because it's important to ensure the principle of least privilege, as I say. So for that, she can simply type a revoke statement like this, revoke paths, and then here she needs to specify the same paths as before for write volume on volume study X from Adrian at databricks.com. All right. So now she has revoked. She revoked write access to me, and to confirm that, first I can try displaying this image again, and it is going to work. But then if I try to, for example, delete it like this with FSRM, that is now going to fail with a permission denied error. So that concludes my demo. That's all I have. Thank you so much. I'm happy to stick around and answer any questions that you might have for us. Maybe I should say a few words though from the presentation. What's there at the end? I'm just skipping through the slides now, and this is where the demo would have been. And now after the demo, so as I said in the beginning, this feature is approaching private preview. We're now collecting like subscriptions for this private preview. If you're interested, please scan this QR code and fill in the details there. I will keep it on the screen for a moment. And yeah, there's a bunch of exciting stuff that would come afterwards, which is to allow for more flexible grant clauses with maybe glob paths and maybe tags support. And also, we're considering adding new privileges like browse only capability. But yeah, please engage with us. Let us know what you're interested in, and we're happy to collect your feedback. Thanks again.